Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another Backlog cleared video. As you'll see in the title of the video, it's Shameless Screen Entertainment's turn. Now this is another label that my collection may get trimmed down once I clear my ultimate backlog, because there's some titles that I probably won't revisit again. These are the trademark yellow covers, which do stand out. Again, a nod to the giallo Italian cinema, which again were kind of inspired by the yellow covered lurid imagery books that appeared in Italy and kind of inspired the giallo film movement in the late 60s, early 70s. That went on to pretty much the 80s in Italy, because again Italian cinema was more a kind of place where people went to meet people and hang out, and then there's like a film in the background. So the reason for giallo having like a murder every 10 minutes or a murder every 20 minutes or nudity every now and again was pretty much to get the audience's attention. Because they were spending most of their time like chatting to each other and socialising. So this is kind of a mixed bag. Again, as you'll see in the image on the screen, if you put all the spines together of the DVDs, it does say Shameless. I'll never have a complete Shameless, because they do have a few cannibal films, like Cannibal Holocaust, which I'm not really interested. Cannibal films aren't really to my taste. They do DVDs and Blu-rays. A film can be in DVD and Blu-ray. They don't seem to be releasing stuff very regularly, even though I think they're going to recently release Viva, which I don't have. So I'm just going to go through them. Again, they are spine numbered, and again in the comments below you can tell me which one are your favourites or which Shameless edition I should pick up. For the DVDs and the Blu-rays to some extent, the extras are a bit all over the place. Some of them just don't have extras at all, others have really good extras. Some of them unfortunately are only English audio, they just have a dub version. Others have English audio and the original Italian, which I prefer, obviously. But unfortunately some of them just have an English dub. Some of the DVDs, the picture quality is not great. Some of them to try and get to the most uncut versions of the films, because a lot of these films were either on the Video Nasties list or the secondary Video Nasties list. So sometimes the integrated pieces of footage that they found, the quality is even worse, or you might have something that's in Italian but then there's a scene that they found that's only in English, or vice versa. And then you have other DVD prints that are really nice looking. So again, I would say the whole label is a kind of mixed bag, not only in the quality of the film, again just from a personal level, you might love them all and that's absolutely fine, that's fantastic. But again, with extras, picture quality, language, it is a kind of mixed bag. But we'll go through them anyway, because now that's another backlog down. I'm getting there very slowly. So as we saw, spine number 2 is Phantom of Death with Michael York. This was directed by Ruggero Deodatto of Cannibal Holocaust fame, and he appears in quite a lot of the Shameless features. Again, they do have reversible artwork in most of them as well. That's not reversible, that's reversible artwork. And again, they do go for the lurid covers. So the back covers have usually got nudity on them. This is an interesting film. It might actually be my favourite Deodatto, because I'm not a huge Deodatto fan of what I've seen. It stars Michael York as a concert pianist who gets this aging disease and starts killing people, and Donald Pleasance gives a wonderfully subtle performance as a detective who's trying to solve these murders and is continually puzzled by the fact that evidence of who did it keeps changing. You know, somebody says they're attacked by a man in their 30s, and then it's a man in their 50s, and they find skin that suggests he's in his 70s. And Donald Pleasance is perpetually bemused by this. And Michael York keeps phoning him, and his voice changes as he gets older. There's a wonderful scene where Pleasance, so frustrated by all of this, runs into the street and just starts shouting and bawling. It's quite wonderful. It's a really fun little film with an interesting turn by Michael York, and Donald Pleasance, like I said, is always worth the price of admission. Next is number 5, which is Venus in Furs. I'll show you the back copy from a very far long way away. This is Massimino Dallamano, which is also known as Devil in the Flesh. The tagline is "She's the bitch with the switch." It's apparently a true film adaptation of Leopold von Schacher-Mosch's infamous novel of Perversion and Pain. Stars Laura Antonelli. It's about sadomasochism and voyeurism, and it's okay. Next is number 7, Flavia the Heretic, which has had a Blu-ray upgrade on Shameless. This is Gianfranco Mingozzi, which stars Florinda Balkan. Again, if you've watched enough Italian giallos and police films in the 70s, all the faces will become familiar, especially all the character faces. And they all become an amalgam of the same film almost. This one I won't be upgrading to Blu-ray because it's okay, but it's not really my cup of tea. It's set in the 15th century, and it's about nuns and bondage and all that good fun. Next is number 8. This is Lucio Fulci's Manhattan Baby, which in typical Fulci fashion, I can show you the back cover of this one. Again, no booklet or anything, just that wonderfully lurid yellow cover. This one is a bit of a mess. It's got stuff from Egypt in it, curses, and then it has the hilarious flying bed exorcist rip-off scene that the producers just wanted inserted in the film, which makes no sense, has nothing to do with the rest of the film. Again, it's a complete mess, but Fulci still puts things in it that are kind of wonderful. Next is number 11, My Dear Killer. This is one of the films I would highly recommend, and this is Tonino Valeri, who is more famous for doing westerns. And this stars George Hilton, who was in a lot of westerns, and again William Bergen, who was also in a lot of Italian westerns. This is a really wonderful, twisty-turny whodunit about murders that start happening 3 or 4 years after the kidnapping of a child, which ended up in the child being found dead. And it's essentially a message from the grave that the child sent, and George Hilton's a detective who's trying to find out who's killing all these people. It starts with a wonderful scene where somebody is beheaded by an industrial digger. There's death by power tools. It's a lot of fun, and it ends up in the classic Agatha Christie, all the suspects in a room. It really does a good job of giving you all these suspects, and they're all fairly believable. It's just a wonderful example of how these films kind of should be done. Next is number 13, which is What Have They Done to Your Daughters, which I have upgraded on Arrow Blu-ray. And this is Massimino Dallamano again. This is a really interesting one. It's about teenage prostitution ring and murders, including a kind of machete-wielding motorcyclist, as seen in the cover. But it actually has a wonderfully true and believable ending when the investigating detective pretty much goes to his bosses with, this is corruption at the highest level. This is, a ring of teenage prostitution and murder by politicians and people in power, and his superior officer pretty much tells him to drop it. And then the film ends. So it's like, it is such a realistic view of, again, there's nothing worse than these films where it's one individual against a huge conspiracy, and that one individual somehow takes it all down. It's just not believable. On a side note, that's why the parallax view is so good, in my opinion. So that's another really interesting and good one. The next one is Who Saw Her Die? Got to love that cover. This is Spine number 14. This is Aldo Lado. Again, lots of these films, they'll also appear in, they don't maybe also appear in 88 Films Italian Collection, but films by the same directors are also in 88 Films Italian Collection as well. And again, there's some overspill into Arrow. Also, this one is set in Venice, a couple of years, or maybe the year before, Don't Look Now. Again, it's about a couple of child murders, and it's really, and it actually stars George Lazenby with a moustache. It's a really nice, effective little thriller. Music by Ennio Morricone. Again, some of these films perhaps aren't the greatest films, but then they'll have like just a stunning score by Ennio Morricone or Bruno Nicolai. So even although a lot of them might just be like 3 out of 5 films, there is something to enjoy in most of them. Next is another really good one. This is The Designated Victim. This is Spine number 15. This is Maurizio Lucidi, who I'm not really that familiar with. And it stars Thomas Millian, who meets a count played by Pier Clementi, who again, that's probably a face that you'll recognise. And his Thomas Milan's character really wants his estranged wife to sell their fashion company or advertising company, but she doesn't want to any kind of has conversations with a strange, almost Dracula type character, and the Count suggests that he'll kill his wife if Thomas Milan's character kills his brother. And surprise, surprise, I don't think it's really that much spoilers. His wife ends up dead. Milian is, the suspect, but keeps claiming, the Count probably did it, and all the evidence mounts against Milian's character, until he's kind of forced to hold up his end of the bargain. But of course, things aren't what they seem, because this is a giallo, or an Italian thriller. Next up is number 17, Oasis of Fear. This is Umberto Lenzi, who can do some good, interesting films and can do some not so much. And to me, this is not so much. This will probably be one of the ones that I'll move on from once I've completed my ultimate backlog. Also known as Dirty Pictures. It actually stars Ornella Muti, who would obviously appear in Flash Gordon only 9 years later. Yeah, it's not really very interesting, and I wouldn't really recommend it. That's as much as I can say about that. Number 19 is Baba Yaga, the final cut, which again has a Shameless Blu-ray now. But again, I probably won't be upgrading this one either. Again, it's okay. It's about perhaps a witch who interferes in the life of a photographer, and strange things happen when she uses her camera. Again, it's okay. Next is number 20, Footprints on the Moon by Luigi Bazzoni, also known as Le Orme. Again, this stars Florinda Balkan, who is kind of trapped in this kind of dream reality world. It has an appearance by Klaus Kinski, which is always worth checking out, and it's shot by Vittorio Storaro, who would obviously shoot a lot more famous films. Again, this is another one that's okay, but not great. Number 23 is Satan's Baby Doll, Mario Bianchi, who has done some other things, even though I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. This one has extra footage. Again, some of these have like XXX versions where they essentially just inserted XXX stuff. There's a bio of the actress Mariangel Giordano, and subtitles. Again, it's set in a castle, and there's weirdness and lots of nudity, and it's not that good. Number 34 is The House on the Edge of the Park. Again, Ruggero Deodatto. It's essentially The Last House on the Left, but marginally better, because it does have some kind of social commentary. I'm not a big fan of Last House on the Left. I do have the Arrow kind of special edition of it, which to me is a perfect example of the edition being better than the film, because to me the film's just not that good at all. This one is slightly better. It's again starring David Hess, and him and his friend turn up to a party of bourgeois people and pretty much terrorise them. Again, it's not a film that I would be watching again anytime soon. Again, Deodatto is not really, his work doesn't really stand out to me in any way. But again, it's interesting. This one has actually a lot of really good extras. Again, strangely enough, like The Last House on the Left, the extras are probably better than the film. This is an interview with Hess and Deodatto, an introduction by David Hess. But it's got a wonderful debate with Deodatto, and I can't remember the professor's name, but again, he's been on extras of other things as well, about the UK censors and doing like studies in America and Europe, the difference between focus groups on kind of violent films, which is actually a fascinating piece, and again, probably more fascinating than the actual film is. Next is number 36, which is Della Morte Della More, The Cemetery Man, which I also actually have on Shameless Blu-ray, with Rupert Everett. This is Michelle Soavi, who does appear in other Shameless releases. Again, this one is a little bit mental. It's essentially slightly zombie, slightly erotic thriller. This one has a commentary. It's kind of fun and strange, but not great, strangely enough. Next one is number 38, The House with Laughing Windows by Pupu Ivati and his brother. This is a really interesting one about a guy who's employed to restore a fresco in a church which has scenes of murder and sadomasochism in it, and he kind of uncovers the secret of what was inspired that painting, and it goes backwards and forwards through time. There's kind of odd characters. It's a really interesting film. Doesn't perhaps completely work, but it certainly tries, and it has some wonderful moments in it. Next is number 43, Contraband by Lucio Fulci, and again it has a nice lenticular of somebody getting their brains blown out. This one is a lot of fun. Again, Fulci is far from being like a perfect filmmaker or anything, but again, he will show you stuff that'll either put a smile on your face or make you laugh out loud, or just blow you away. Again, if you're used to Fulci just doing horror films, this is a little bit unusual. It's one of his crime films. It's about smugglers, or small-time smugglers in Naples, who get taken over by a much nastier crew who want to start drug smuggling. There's some really nasty deaths. There's a really nasty rape in it. But for the deaths, Fulci pretty much uses kind of horror prosthetics and horror tropes almost with the deaths. So people literally get their faces blown off, the back of their heads exploded. There's just an amazing scene at the end, because it keeps kind of intercutting with this older character, again a character actor that you've seen in thousands of Jallies, and you kind of realise that he's the old crime boss in the town and he's kind of retired. And there's just a wonderful scene later in the film where the older gangsters get involved. It's just absolutely sublime, including Fulci himself with an automatic weapon. It's just, of course, ironically, of course, now Naples is actually overrun with drugs. But it's so much fun. Again, it's Fulci, so it's hardly perfect, but there's a lot to like in it. And again, just because he uses that horror special effects in a crime film, it's kind of unusual, but the effects are pretty startling. So I would certainly recommend Contraband. Next is an interesting one. It's by number 44. It's The Washing Machine, which is actually in a tin washing machine, which is, it's a very unique piece of it's even got like knobs and stuff. Unfortunately, the film is not very good, and surprise surprise, it's directed by Ruggero Deodato. I mean, again, I'm sure there's people that are like huge Deodatto fans, and that's absolutely fine. But his films aren't really for me, and the washing machine is no difference. Again, strange enough, it's about people who end up in a washing machine, and it doesn't go to Narnia. Next is number 45, which is the sister of Ursula, which is kind of billed as the proto-porno giallo. Again, this one is okay. This is directed by Enzo Milioni, and it's basically about a couple of women who take their clothes off quite a lot, and are stalked by a killer, obviously, because you have to have a killer involved somewhere, because otherwise it's just a film where women take their clothes off a lot. Nobody's going to watch that. Number 46, speaking of which, it's Top Sensation, aka The Seducers, with Edwidge Finage, which isn't even the way he pronounces her name. This is Ottano Alessi, again, director I'm not that familiar with. And again, it's just a little bit of sleaze, has psychological abuse and kidnapping and incest on board a yacht. And again, it's not that good. Obviously, if you're a Finesse completist, then it's an absolute must. Next is number 47, Formula for a Murder, aka 7 Hayden Park, which is a fairly terrible title. This has a tagline, Warbeck goes berserk, and another interesting Shameless selling point, this does actually contain a Shameless plastic Mac, which Warbeck's character wears. It's kind of giving it away. Again, this is a film about a plot to kill somebody. Warbeck has married this woman, but his motives aren't necessarily honourable. She keeps having visions of a killer priest with a doll, which is always a good sign. This was directed by Alberto Di Martino, who also directed The Antichrist, but totally worth it because you got a Mac. So we're going to go on to the Blu-rays now. Don't worry, just like some of these films, this video will be over at some point. To me, arguably the best film in the whole Shameless range, I've just did a random review of it, is The 10th Victim, with Ursula Andress and Marcello Mastroianni, by Elio Petri, who did the wonderful investigation of a citizen above suspicion with Gio Marino Volonte, which is absolutely fantastic, which I would highly urge people to get. As far as I'm aware, this is the only Blu-ray DVD combo, and it seems to be Blu-ray 0 but DVD 50, so it kind of looks like 500 on the spine number. And again, it's just Blu-ray DVD. This is essentially a science fiction Hunger Games, Most Dangerous Game. You have hunters and hunted. Wars have been banned, but they still need to kill people off. So they have this game where if you're successful after 10 hunts and being hunted, you get £1 million or $1 million. The production design is amazing. Andress and Mastroianni are just unbelievably cool. It's full of just wonderful satirical touches. It's just so good. It's one of those films that kind of blew me away, and it's certainly one of the releases in Shameless screen entertainment that I would highly recommend. So next is Blu-ray spine number 1, which is Fulci's New York Ripper, which is DVD number 1. Some of these Blu-rays do actually have booklets, and this one has a presentation by Antonella Fucci, Lucio Fulci's daughter, and there's an interview that says Beyond Fake Blood. And the booklet features writing by Stephen Thrower, who wrote books on Fulci. This is one of his most famous slasher films, with giallos or kind of Italian horrors always had a gimmick, and the gimmick in this one is both jaw-dropping and hilarious. It is quite extreme though, that's why it was probably banned. Number 3 is another one that's one of the best releases on Shameless. It's Four Flies on Grey Velvet by Argento. I'm not sure whether this is the only place you can get this one in Blu-ray. There might be a Severin or Blue Underground, I'm not quite sure, in the States. This is one starring Michael Brandon, and how they actually get to the title, because a lot of the giallo had these animal based titles after the Bird with Crystal Plumage, and some of them have nothing to do with what's actually going on or the story. But Four Flies on Grey Velvet is beautiful, how it's actually worked in, and how it is actually relevant to the title. Again, it's got a Morricone score, so even if you don't like the film, even though you should, it's got a Morricone score. And again, this is an interview with writer and assistant director Luigi Cosi. The film is restored from prior missing footage. It's got new English audio, remastered, and obviously it's got the subtitles as well. That's another one I would recommend picking up. Number 4 is Michele Soavi, The Church. Again, this one doesn't have a booklet. This one's okay. It's about people being trapped in a church, strangely enough. There's a unique interview with Michele Soavi, a 2K remaster. It's the longest version available, and there's a dubbed version on it as well if you're that way inclined, and it's also got reversible artwork. Again, a good film, not spectacular. And then we have number 5, which is The Sect, Michele Soavi, aka the Devil's Daughter. Again, this is pretty much a Rosemary's Baby. I think Herbert Lom's in this one, could be wrong. Again, this one has a unique interview with Michele Soavi, and it's a 2K print. Some of them are numbered, don't know, it's 3000, but again, solid, but nothing amazing. The next one is number 6, and this is Umberto Lenzi again. This is Almost Human, starring Thomas Millian. I mean, Thomas Millian did play some scumbags in his career, but this one he plays a complete psychotic, even psychopaths would probably distance themselves from his character in this. He's just absolutely terrible. Henry Silva's also in it, and again, it's got a wonderful score by Ennio Morricone, but it's just a little bit too, he's just a little bit too nasty for me. And again, this one's numbered, it's 2,245 out of 3,000. If you're a Thomas Millian fan, you can see him going to extreme levels, but everybody else, it's kind of okay, but not one that I would revisit that often. Next is number 7, which is Sergio Martino's All the Colours of the Dark, which stars Edwidge Fenech, George Hilton. This one's got a score by Bruno Nicolai, or Ennio Morricone's teacher. Again, this is about satanic sacrifice and a knife wielding enemy. It's pretty good. It's on the higher end of these ones. Number 8, again, it's almost a partner to All the Colours of the Dark. It's Sergio Martino's The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. Again, Edwidge Fenech and George Hilton. This one is Nora Orlandi, who did the score. I could be wrong, but I think she was in the same Nikolai Morricone gang. I could actually be wrong about that. Probably am wrong about that. This is a Sergio Martino and Edwidge Fenech interview, a Sergio Marino introduction, and again, this is another really good one. Not a masterpiece or anything, but certainly well worth your time. Number 9 is Torso. We're 3 for 3 for Sergio Martino. This might be my favourite Martino. This one's a lot of fun. This one just has, well, it says it's got a unique Shameless rebuild with English scenes inserts. It's got a Sergio Martino interview. Again, this is a bunch of students getting threatened by the man in the mask with various tools. Number 12 is the previous mentioned Della Morte Della More, The Cemetery Man, by Michelle Soavi. This, yep, no booklet. This is number 920 of the numbered ones. Again, I'm assuming it's 3000. This has got an interview with the writer producer, a new interview with the SFX, and this one actually has got a commentary with Michelle Soavi. Again, rather daft, bit of a mess, but kind of enjoyable as well. And next is number 13, The Case of the Bloody Iris, with Edwidge Fenech again. And this is Giuliano Canmio, who did Ratman, which is also in Shameless, but I haven't seen that one. This is a 2K scan. New English subtitles, and is an interview with George Hilton. This one's probably the weakest of those 3 Edwidge Fenech kind of murder mystery culty films, but again, still watchable, and still has some fun. Now this one is number 14. This is a kind of special edition of Fulci's The Beyond, which is a 2K upgrade, but it just has that kind of, so they've kind of completely abandoned the yellow and did this kind of clear, which, to be honest, I'm not actually sure I like that much, or I don't like. So there's a definite answer. You know, they sell it as Lucio Fulci's zombie masterpiece. I wouldn't go that far. Like all of his films, they're not very cohesive. The narrative doesn't really make a lot of sense, but then they don't really have to. There's lots of iconic stuff in it, and a whole lot of fun. So that's the kind of ragtag, mixed bag of my Shameless screen entertainment backlog cleared. Again, you know, I might pick up the odd one or two moving forward, but I, like I said, I'm never going to be complete on it because there's just too many titles that I'm not really that interested in. And again, some of these titles I'll probably move on from once I clear the ultimate backlog. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Again, let me know, make comments on films that stand out to you. Again, if there's any amazing Shameless releases that I'm missing out on, please let me know. And hopefully you'll join me again as I attempt to go through another backlog. So this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.